Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hey everyone, welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
I thought you might have forgot for a second who you were.
Well, it froze. It cut out.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so always got to ask, where are you? Carolinas or Kentucky?
I actually was on vacation last week on my annual girls trip. We went to Turks and Caicos, and I'm pretty sure that's the hottest place I've ever been. It was so hot. Oh my gosh. It was so hot. Like if you weren't in the water on the boat, I mean, you couldn't even be outside, but it might be because we went the end of July. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it was great. It was still just a good little getaway.
So is it like humid? I would think it's like Jamaica and all those places, like super humid. I mean, I don't even know where it is. Where is it?
It's like 100 miles below the Bahamas, I think.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Over to the right. I don't know.
Somewhere.
I'm that person that saw that meme that said, it was so funny. It said, all these people giving directions saying go north and south. And I'm like, okay, Lewis and Clark, where's the Starbucks and the Target? Tell me where to turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are you close to? Just give me that hint.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, It looked like you guys had a great time. And I saw that you found a real estate office over there and almost joined them.
Oh my gosh. Right when we got there, we were like, there's a Keller Williams and it's so nice and it's so cute. I said, I got to take a picture and tease press. So of course we did.
Did y'all meet the people or no?
We met the director of first impressions, and then there was another lady in there who kind of does like office manager stuff, and they were so super sweet. She said, we can always tell when Keller Williams people are in town because they come in here like wild and crazy. Like, and of course, Tammy's like, do y'all have any Keller Williams t-shirts? And all this stuff. But it was great. They were in a very prime location. And it's the island itself is only 17 miles long.
Yeah.
But they transact a lot of real estate down there in Turks and Caicos. I mean, it is wild. And the price, those are some high prices.
So I'm assuming it's a lot in volume and not necessarily in transactions, right? You wouldn't need very many transactions.
Yeah, you wouldn't need very many transactions. Yeah, the average sales price, I think, is pretty high. But yeah, it was great. It was really good. It reminded me of the Bahamas, only just hotter. But again, it could be because we went in July. But you know how we talked about like tenacity, and I think on one of our recent ones, and being in a foxhole, or I can't remember what that.
Yeah. Well, I always say I'd be on a front line or a foxhole with certain people. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I was so proud of Jenny because Jenny Mattiok, she goes with us. Well, 2 days before we left, she realized her passport was expired. And so she couldn't go. So she was calling. She called like our senator and, governor and whoever else, and all around everybody. We were all like on the horn we were like, no, we're not taking no for an answer. And so they said, well, you can fly to Honolulu today and to the passport place there. And she was like, no, I'm not giving up. I'm close to Atlanta. So she went ahead and took her original Atlanta flight, called like every hour on the hour until she got an appointment. We left on a Sunday. So then on that Monday, she got an appointment at the Atlanta passport office at 7:30 that morning. She said it was like a total poop show. Like the line was crazy, but she made it in there. They redid her passport. She went and found some Keller Williams people that she used to coach with in Atlanta, stayed with them, went to their power hour the next morning, and then got her passport approved that day at 3 p.m. and got on a flight the next morning, and she came. So she came 2 days late, but she made it. And I said, Jenny, like she just wasn't going to take no for an answer. Yeah. I was like, I love it. She got there and it was great.
Well, and that kind of leads into our last point on the book Trust, which is about people's track record, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And I thought about this, and I think this is probably one of the most important because actions always speak louder than words. I've always used that phrase and said that, and that's so true because people can say, oh, I'm this or I'm that, or I can do this or I can do that. But the truth is actions speak so loudly, you don't hear somebody's words sometimes.
Yep, that's right. So just in case somebody is listening to this one and you might have missed our last few, when we did have a great interview that you did with Rhonda that dropped in between of our 5. So just in case you forgot, so the 5 phases of trust with Dr. Henry Cloud, and today we're wrapping up the 5th one. And the first one was understanding. The second one was motive. The third one was ability. The 4th one we just did 2 weeks ago was on character. And then today our last one, number 5, is on someone's track record.
Yeah. And I'm excited because I think we have him booked to come on the show. Yep. And what I'd love to spend time with him, first of all, if you have questions for him after you listen to these episodes, forward them to us at info@everything life and real estate. We'll make sure we ask him. But I would love for him to kind of give us ideas around each of these of how to get it if you don't feel like you have it or you need help in this area. So how to gain the trust if you've lost it. I'd love to hear him talk about that. Because I've seen so many situations lately where opportunities miss, so many things are missed because people have lost trust with each other. And we were just talking about this like 2 days ago. I wonder if sometimes people, like usually when you see a person and they have certain blind spots and it's costing them opportunity, you wonder, how do you help that person see that? Because it's costing them opportunity. It's making things worse, all those things. But then I said to myself, well, gosh, how do I see my own blind spots? So I'd love to ask him questions like that. Like, how do we see our own blind spots, or how do we get help around anything that might be a blind spot that we're violating one of these important criteria and don't even realize it? Or if someone else that we really care about is, how do we help them? So those are some of the questions I want to say for him. One of the things I thought of when I was reading all about track record is what are some of the doors that your track record could open for you? Yeah. Or what are some doors that wouldn't open for you because of your track record? Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's, and then what does your track record tell people about you?
Yeah.
Like, I think we don't think about that enough in our own life.
Yeah. Well, I liked how when he started with track record, he said, we don't realize that our minds build mental maps, and every interaction that we are making or having with somebody, we're building a track record, because your mind actually gives you it's building a mental map over and over and over with every single interaction that you have with somebody. And he said the mental map is, what can I expect the next time? And so whether that's a positive, I mean, we all have, I think, positives and the areas of opportunity we could work on. But the truth about track record is, what it does is it makes you build a mental map so that you can figure out what you can expect from that person the next time. And he said, if it's good, you're running towards that person. And if it's not, then you're running away from that person. And that really made sense when he said it like that, because I think that's true based on someone's track record. And then again, the questions we need to ask him are, if you lose that, how do you get that back? Because I think track record is such a big one. I mean, in your business life, in your personal relationships, everything.
Well, and I think about relationships that I've gotten into that you kind of start all of a sudden, I can even feel that moment when I start to see a track record and I start to realize, this is not good. The thing I thought about as we were going through this is, how do we create some kind of system around really validating the track record we're looking for? And so we don't get that wake up call. 2 days ago, we were just having this conversation about, having people in your life that every time you talk to them, it's nothing but negative about somebody or the situation. And you're like, okay, this is not fun. I don't want to keep having this conversation. And yet you're kind of already in a relationship with them. So you're kind of stuck. How do I either help them see it, or how do I get out of it? In other words,
because then your mind is building the mental map that every time you talk to them, it's going to be negative.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So, which then proves the point of what he said. Then you want to run away from them, not towards them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, sometimes you're so far and deep in a relationship with someone that running away is not that simple, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's truly not that simple. So I love that it says what someone has done before is the best indicator of what will happen next time. And I think that's why when we do career visioning, which by the way, we just put our new regional operations manager through career visioning. And I love when someone from the outside comes into our world and they go, oh my God, if I'd have had this kind of process in my past jobs, I would have killed it. You know, and they just go nuts over a process that we have to like pressure our people to use. That's $1 million, millions of dollar process. And you're like, oh my God. And people walk in from the outside corporate world and they go, oh gosh. And part of that process is going back and looking for people's track record. We call it the life story. But the truth is what we're really looking for is a track record. Yeah. Which track are they on? Is it an up track? Is it a down track? Is it a flat track?
And one thing I like about that too, Linda, on the track record part is even if you've seen somebody who had it wasn't always, sunshine and rainbows, and they had a dip where something happened, did they pull out and go back to did they come back out? Did they, what do we say before? Like, did they make something great out of it and redeem themselves and come back up? Because if they've had a track record of doing that, then typically, hopefully, then they can do it again if something were to happen, or if they had like a low moment, as I think we call it on the life story.
Yeah. Well, I think how they handle adversity is super important, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't avoid adversity. It said great competencies that matter significantly are not first-time performances. And I thought about in our process, if they don't have that in their past, we call them raw talent. And so we have to look for the characteristics that would to develop into a high performance track record. Yeah. So when you meet a person, they're either going to be raw, emerging, or proven, right? Proven is going to give you more evidence because you're going to have more track record to look at. Yeah. Emerging is they may have a track record. It may not be specifically in the area that you want to put them in or that you need them to perform in. And then raw is I have no really track record. So now I'm going to have to look for characteristics that, and I'm taking more of a gamble, and I'm going to take more of a gamble because great competencies that matter significantly are not first time performances. I loved that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great too. Yeah. Yeah. He said, you kind of said that the best predictor of the future is the past. And then also he talked a little bit about forgiveness in the track record part. And he said, forgiveness cleans up yesterday and it's free, but trust is about the future and it has to be earned. And so when you're looking at someone's track record, you really have to think about the forgiveness part. And then can you look to the future and look at their track record, whether it's a positive or a negative. Hopefully, if they have a positive track record and something happens, then it's easier to forgive and move on. And so I thought those were kind of some of the things I was just thinking about because we've talked a little bit before. This whole trust thing has been so good. I've used it in
oh my gosh,
so many instances. We even had a little just tiff. Little spat on the girls' trip, and I was like, "Hold on a minute, you guys. Let's talk about trust." I was like, "Let's go through the five little levels because we know that you have a great track record. We know that you care. We know that you have the ability. Like this was a little thing that maybe not a little thing, but something that shouldn't have been said." And so I was like, "See, you just use it in every single thing. I mean, it's so much of the time comes back to trust." And for me, I think the track record piece of it, I mean, they're all so important. Everyone we talk about, I'm like, this has got to be the most important one. But the track record piece, I feel like, is kind of one that's easier, rather than having to figure out their character makeup or their motives. Sometimes it's harder. But track record, I feel like if you learn to ask the right questions and you dig deep, you should be able to pull out the track record kind of easier than their character makeup. Do you think?
Yeah. But I think of all the places I have actually probably messed up, I think it's probably by not looking for enough evidence of a track record that I needed for a particular role. So I still specific evidence, because there was a couple places in the book too. He talked about Madoff, and he talked about how most people trusted him because they went off other people's well, if they trust them, right? Instead of looking for evidence for themselves, right? Or things like that. So I think when I think about it, like, and I see this all the time in the real estate, someone hires a real estate assistant only because they worked for another top team. They don't look for evidence of how did that person do on that top team.
Totally.
So I think, I think you can always go deeper, but I think part of, would be important is if you're looking for something in someone, ask take their track record and say, what does that really tell me as it pertains to the role that I'm going to put them in or to the part I want them to play.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a good example of that because Adam and I, just right before this, we both had been interviewing a girl to do some marketing and social media, and she's going to do for a couple things for our offices for the one team, a little bit stuff for Adam. And we were trying to kind of dig into the track record part of it. And so she gave some specific examples of here's someone's account that I took over and they had 3,000 followers and within 90 days they had 7,000 so that's what you're saying is making so much sense to me now because we kind of just did that without even knowing what we were doing, but really trying to get the specific things that we need them to do. What's been their track record on those things particularly? Because sometimes maybe we're too broad.
I do think so. And I think even when I think about checking people's references and talking to them, I still, what they believe may be the right characteristics may not be actually the ones I really need. Right. And I think about this one particular situation where characteristic wise, the person has great characters, skill wise, they're lacking.
Yeah.
And so, maybe even more specifics. I know I thought about in my process of when I interview people, one of the things that I have learned is people will talk in generalities, and I would take that as, if they say, I'm organized. Oh, they're organized. Well, no, give me specific examples of things you organized, or even with your girl, give me some specific examples of how you took that from this number to that number, right? Because were there any other players? Yeah. Did anybody else play a part? Because all those things are important in the track record. Because if those people don't come over with that person, because it said in here, one thing it said was trust can't be given on a promise. Mm-hmm. And I think if you ask anybody, because there's a difference in perception, if you say to someone, so one of the questions I always ask is on a scale of 1 to 10, how organized are you? Well, I'm a 7. Well, what's missing that would make you a 10? Trying to find out what those missing pieces are, or what attributes make you a 7. Yeah. I mean, to me, I could always get a little more specific because I think I get caught up when I just ask a question and I don't really investigate the answer.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I mean, I'm sitting here even thinking right now, if someone asked me if I was organized, if we were talking about the house, 100%. If you got in my car, it is a mess all the time because I basically live out of it. But it's like there are certain specific things, but generally I would say, I am an organized person. But if obviously I wouldn't be great to work for a car detail place because that's not my forte. So it's almost breaking it down like so specifically for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would have to say, I have a mug in my office that says organized people are just too lazy to look for things. So that'll tell you where I am. But here's the thing. I like things organized, and I'll make sure they get done by someone who does have that ability to organize. I'm just not going to be your one to do it. Right. Yeah. But learning that about somebody is super important, because if you wanted them to be organized in a certain area, let's say their car, that's not going to work for you because you're more organized in your house than you are your car. So I think this one really hit me and made me realize a couple of places I fall short when I'm trying to put people in specific roles is not getting enough, just kind of believing them on face value, or, not really looking for the track record that proves what I need them to accomplish.
Yeah. One of the last things that I had to, that I've been thinking about a lot is like, I've been really trying to study lately companies that make it long term. Like, you know, I mean, they really make it long term and what sets them apart, because they say they have like, what's it called? Like the 7-year itch in marriages, but businesses also have that too. And so some of the ones, so he even said something about that. He said big companies that are looking at their succession plans 5 to 10 years out are the one thing that they're looking for in like their big future hires is an extreme track record, because they need somebody that can carry the succession plan out, not just like, can we have a great year next year, but over the next 5 to 10 years of our business. Because so many, I think the last one I was reading about this was from Harvard Business Review, and it was just so many businesses that didn't come back after COVID or during the pandemic. But he was talking about how like having that track record piece when you're looking for talent is so important in the succession plans of the next 5 to 10 years of your business. And some people are better at quicker tasks versus like coming in and getting something going, versus somebody coming in that's already and then sustaining it. So they were talking about what is their track record on either of those things, and like just planning. I don't know. I think that I've been studying a lot about that. So it's been on the top of my mind, and the track record being so important on your succession plans of your companies too.
Well, and that's a really good point. One of my questions I would love to ask him is, what are some of the things that he sees people look for if they're looking for different things? And I've said this even about team leaders in our different roles that we look for. There is team leaders that are better at launching, and then there are team leaders that are better once you get over 100 agents, and learning to look for the evidence of which one would they be, right? And what would you, how do we, if we're having someone who's good at launching, what do we do? Which Rhonda and I covered this a little bit. I thought our interview was really good about, finding out that maybe there's another person that needs to be a part of that team that can be the person that maintains 100 and something agents, that, leads that many people and leads them well.
Yeah, right? I totally agree. Yeah, I'm definitely learning. I think that's two different profiles of people.
Okay. Yeah. One last thing I'd like to add on this track record is, I see agents do this a lot too. I've done it in my past, learned not to do it, is it says trust is earned, not promised. In other words, I see top people bring someone in and immediately say, oh, you're going to be the person that takes over my team. Oh, you're going to be the person that does this. And they haven't even bothered to give them a track to run on to see how they can do. And the only thing this person remembers is, you made me a promise and we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. You're not giving me that. Well, nothing is given. It's actually earned. So learning to change your language where opportunity is earned.
Yeah.
And making people be willing to prove. I mean, I've learned so much about being more open on a front end of an interview of, one of the things I'm concerned with, to be honest with you, and I want to put you in a role that you knock it out of the park at, is that you don't really have a track record of doing this. Can you help me see how you think you could do that? Because when I thought about, well, when Gary threw me in Ohio and said, go build it, thinking, how hard can this be? I'm wondering, what did he see in my track record other than maybe tenacity, taking something from nothing and building it?
Yeah.
But if he would have asked me, do you think you can do this? I wouldn't have known how to do this. I didn't know how to do it while I was doing it, just trying everything, right? But I would have known that I'm willing to go try. I'm willing to not give up.
Yeah.
I'm a student of learning. So if I'm not doing something right, you can tell me and I'll try to do it differently.
Yeah.
But it really made me realize that we've got to start having that language around everybody. Stop promising things that you don't even know if they have the ability to pull off or be the person. Now you get to a fork in the road. Now you got to part ways with them, or they're going to part ways with you because they feel like they've been promised an opportunity that they didn't earn. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a conversation this morning with an operator who just hired recently a leader, and they're working on getting out some of their investors. And they said, well, I think I should save some for the team leader. And I said, yeah, but the team leader definitely we need to see that they've earned it, first. So you need to put a parameter in place and then say, okay, when this goal is achieved or these things we've hit the mark on these, then you would have the opportunity. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think sometimes we do that because I don't know, you want to hold on to somebody that you think is talent. Or, I'm sure that there's many reasons, but yeah, that's funny that you bring that up because I just had that conversation today and it's definitely an earning for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think we do it for several reasons. One, lack of experience to learn that you don't do that. That is not going to fare well if they don't perform. Number two, people do it who want someone to like them a lot, and we get or if you're super over optimistic.
Yep.
If you're if your behavioral shows you're super over optimistic, you think everything's going to turn out and work out wonderfully, right? Yep. And the truth is you don't know. Time reveals all. I've had people call me and say, "Oh my gosh, Linda, I've hired the most amazing talent." Well, you don't know that yet. Time reveals all, right? So let's give them a little bit of time and then let's do that. Yes, I'm sure they're talent for something, but we don't know if they're talent for the role you've put them in yet. Until we get some results, and then we can measure those results and say, yes, they are talent in this position.
Yeah. I tell this in like my opportunity map story class that I've taught before, but one of the things that made the biggest impact in me in a professional career is when I stepped into a team leader role. I remember saying in the initial part, what are the opportunities? Like what could be future opportunities? Yeah. Not that I didn't want to earn them, I just wanted to know what they were. That's kind of how my brain works. And I remember the region, you guys saying, hey, go be the first black belt team leader that the region's ever had. And then we'll talk about an opportunity. And I was like, okay. And so I did that. And then I remember going back and the region saying, okay, I said, I would be interested in being an OP one day. And I remember the region said, go be a black belt this year, do it again so we can see your track record. And then we'll talk about OP opportunity. And it gave me something to shoot for. You know what I mean? Like I knew then it was up to me to do it or not. But I knew that if I did, because I trusted the region, that I would have an opportunity because that's what we talked about. And so I think sometimes when you do that for somebody, it pushes them even more than what they might have even have thought that they could do on their own. You know what I mean? And it gives you like that North Star to say, okay, it's laid out. I know what I have to do. Now it's up to me. I just have to do it. And then the opportunity could be there. And so I think even if someone's listening thinking like, gosh, that doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound right, or know that afterwards, like it could be one of the best things that's ever happened to you because it starts to build your track record.
Well, for the right people, it will make them really shoot for the stars. For the wrong people, they'll start having excuses and victim language and all of those things, or they won't have any platform to complain about because they say, well, people don't mind. This is what I always used to say about like splits in offices and stuff. People don't mind fair. I mean, they want fair, but it doesn't have to be equal. In other words, you could say, hey, this is my $20 million producer deal. You become $20 million producer, you get the same deal as the next person. Top performers don't mind that kind of deal. What they don't like is one $20 million producer gets something other than something they've earned and the other one doesn't. So I think that it pushes the right people. It pushes them to go for bigger dreams and bigger goals. And that's kind of what you have to have around you. You have to have people who, and I said this in my notes, I said, top performers will bet on themselves. I know that one of the things when I've interviewed like a team leader in one of my offices and they're not willing to bet on themselves, that's a red flag for me. In other words, I give them a choice. You can either make this amount of money and the upside can be this, or you can make a higher amount of money. And one is betting on themselves and the other one isn't. And what they choose really matters. Because the people who believe in themselves, they'll take the lower amount every time and they want the bigger upside.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to add before we wrap up here is I love it. There's a piece of Fierce that says when someone shows you who they are, trust them or believe them, right? And that's what a track record does, is it tells you who someone is. And so if you've really done a good job of checking that track record, we shouldn't be shocked when they either show up and perform or show up and not perform.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited that we're going to have Dr. Henry Cloud on. He can help wrap all this up for us. He can also answer a bunch of these questions that this is now created for us. So let's make a good list. If you have a question or something you'd like for us to discuss with him when his episode comes up, reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And if you have a challenge or questions or a guest that you'd like to see on our podcast, let us know. Again, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And the greatest compliment you can give Dana and I is a 5-star review. And even better than that is pass this podcast along to someone that you think would enjoy these conversations. So Dana, I guess I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.